I mean, the select board can, you can ask to meet with the library board of trustees.
Should we do it?
Absolutely.
And then just, say,
Okay. Well, we'll request a meeting.
I mean, if you, I mean, I look at this last piece. If you look at all of the issues that we have to deal with, all of the many financial issues that we're
Yeah.
juggling,
Yeah.
and they have zero financial issues other than do we draw 4%? Even if they draw 6%, they would never deplete that endowment. So I just feel like they clearly don't need the money.
If we,
well, and what you have to remember is the library is a department of the town,
Yeah.
so don't refer to them as they.
Okay.
It is
Us.
that department.
Thank you.
It is.
I love it when you can correct me there.
We are all one.
No. Well, that reinforces my argument. If we're all one,
Yeah.
and we have all these needs,
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
and they have, it should be the other way around. Maybe they should be contributing to the town.
I know they
certain
can't.
things
They
that their
can't.
endowment cannot be used.
It can only be used for the library.
But like any aspect, like payroll, operating, like projects.
It can be used
For
for
anything.
For library operations and maintenance, programs. It can be used anything for the library.
Right.
They could not, give it towards infrastructure.
Oh, no, I get
Or-
that, but in terms of within the scope of the library.
University board, they drew between 4.5% and 4.75% for the last 15 years, and the endowment has still grown.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so we can invite them to the February 24th work session.
Yeah.
What, is that next Tuesday?
It's not next week, is next week is the Wednesday meeting.
Okay, so are you gonna have them at a regular work session, or are you gonna have them at a
Should we
budget work
have them
session?
at a special, we can have them,
If you have them at your,
At the
your
budget
sort
work
of,
session.
well, then we won't get anything else budget done, I'm guessing. Correct?
yeah.
So,
So we have them to a regular work session on the 24th, is that going to be?
yeah.
So there is one day I'm going to be gone for a day. I'm not sure if it's 23rd or the 24th. I have to be gone for one day. I don't want to miss that work session. I'll let you know tomorrow morning
Okay.
if I'll be gone.
24th is a Monday.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask a question, Karen? You might answer while I was trying to get this thing going. Nick's email talks about this 4% allowed. Are they capped? They're only allowed to take out 4% at any one time?
No, I did not, and the only reason that I really know that is because I actually got a copy of, their endowment was given to the Maine Community Foundation, that's the River Clothing Fund.
Yeah.
And I happen to be over at the Maine Community Foundation because I'm actually on a different fund. I actually am a
Trustee.
trustee on that. So I was over there, and I just said, "Hey, could you tell me this?" And I guess I let her know before I went over there. When I got over there, she said, we pulled the paperwork, and she said, when Deborah Podium passed away, she said she really left no restrictions on it, except for the fact that it was for the library operations. So they had complete control over how they did it. And for example, one year, when they did all the, built the addition to the library, they actually took $1 million from it.
Mm-hmm.
So they've
Do we have the total that's in the endowment right now? Do we have it ready?
yeah, it's $8 million something. You guys
They
get.
start at 4, you said, right, or so?
I think Deborah left them 4.
Sure,
Yeah,
everything.
and when the Fitzhugh Lane paintings were sold, I think they were sold for like $250,000, and so that was all principal. And then everything since then has been growth. And
Yeah, it's like literally, so their principal is $4 million, their interest earned is $4 million.
for their growth.
Growth, right.
Because,
But
And how
normally
many- how many
you
years
can't
has
touch,
it been
you
since
can't
she
touch
died?
the principal normally in a lot of those.
How many years
That's why.
since she died?
what's that, Deborah? I think Deborah passed away 15 or 20 years ago.
Deborah, yeah, I saw her on 9/11. I know I was with her on 9/11 in 2001.
24 years ago.
So I bet it was 20 years
And
ago.
so I'm gonna say yeah.
Actually, I'm surprised it's not bigger, because, you know, if they had averaged 6%,
What is,
The rule of
remember,
there was 72.
Oh, Rule of 70, I
Me
knew
too.
it was something, I knew.
but they took,
Some rule.
they took $1 million out to
Okay.
their addition, and then they also took, some money out every year to go towards operations. So
Okay.
not a lot, but,
So do you think this 4% that they're allowed is some internal
I
bylaw
think-
that they might have?
I don't know, but remember when they actually were meeting with you, then I think they were asked that question. And I think they said, no, they didn't have anything, and maybe that's something that this board just said this year, okay, we're gonna take 4%. So that may have just been,
In general, whenever you deal with managing endowments, the gold standard is it yields 6.5%, you draw 4.5%, it increases every 2% a year,
right.
and at 2% a year, every 25 years it doubles.
On this top sheet that you have for us, Karen, should there be a FY
Oh,
26
no.
comment, or do you think they it's
No, and
misplaced?
this was me that did this, so this is, I forgot to change it. So this should be 25 and that should be 26.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, I just want to make sure we're looking at the,
Yeah.
whichever numbers they are.
All right, so we will just invite the library to the,
24th is a, okay.
Is that our next meeting, 24th?
It's our next work session.
Oh, next work session, right,
Next
not
regular
this
work
one,
session,
right, as
right.
we said that.
Okay, so, number 4, law enforcement, I did talk with Deputy Birch, we had a very nice conversation yesterday. He is pulling together numbers for us. He is pulling together numbers of if we double what we currently have, if we triple what we currently have, or if we go to full-time. And so he's gonna have those numbers for us, I should get them this week,
okay, good.
and I will send them to everybody. when
That's
they're
that's wonderful, thank you.
Okay, okay. And then, of course, the other thing that sort of goes along with that, Derek had gotten the traffic calming stuff.
Mhm.
And, one of the ideas was, if it's really speeding that we're dealing with, and as the reason for us wanting to increase law enforcement, should we work on should we deal with traffic calming first to see if that helps,
Yeah.
rather than doing, I think, if you,
Well, I think-
actually, you had said, I think it was at the last meeting, you said, what is it that we really want to increase, law enforcement for? It's not, it's not that we have, people breaking into places, it's not that we have,
In terms of our goals, we have our listening session on Thursday night, right? As
Right.
long as we don't get snowed out.
Right,
exactly,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, the way at that point in the day,
Yeah.
it may be easier to travel than in the morning, but
or maybe a little bit, could be
Yeah.
intertwined together. And maybe it's doubling what we have, but also doing some traffic calming. That's,
If I can use an example, the other day I'm walking down Perkins, and I hear one of the pickup trucks racing across Battle Avenue with the big bumper, the big bumper. It's the kind of erratic, let's call it erratic driving. You don't have, other than the Shore Road, you don't have people like speeding. It's more like, unsafe, erratic driving that happens in town. And I think that, the speed plateaus are very, very effective, and if we had 3 or 4 of them across Battle Avenue, 1 or 2 on Main Street, I think that the key areas.
Susan for my camera.
What?
I need a lazy Susan so
Oh.
I can spin my camera
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and that might be what people say, because I think on Thursday night, we say, and we're also looking into how much increased law enforcement presence would cost us.
for what purpose?
So, and so
Right.
what would we want it for? What is the
Right.
purpose of that? And then, how would we feel about doing traffic calming first and then increasing it?
The if we did traffic calming first, and let's just call it 30 grand for a, round number, to build some things, we could try that for 6 months. And if we're still seeing issues, I mean, we could have a special meeting anytime to just, to increase the law enforcement.
If we decided that there was a true, that there was an issue that we needed to increase.
Exactly.
We could.
Although remember, whenever you do something mid-year,
Oh,
the
it
only
comes out
places for money to come from
Surplus.
is from surplus. So it's not like you're taking
No, but
taxation.
if we wanted to have a special meeting and said that we want to, just hypothetically, we want to spend an extra $100,000 on law enforcement, we can do that. We can plan it.
You can, but the only place it can come from
Is surplus.
other than the annual town meeting.
Even if we have a special.
Annual town meeting is the only time that you raise money from taxation,
Yeah.
because then in July, you're committing
Yeah.
what you just
Okay.
said you were doing.
But what we could do is, I think what we could do, well, I'm curious to hear what the community says, but I think what we could do is try the traffic calming measures for and then at this time next year, if we feel like they're not working, then we look at, okay, how
Right.
can we budget to have more?
But in terms of budgeting, since we don't know how much the traffic calming devices work, I'm sure if we do some homework in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, I have an
Derek
idea
has
from
some
Scarborough.
numbers.
I would say they're gonna be, to be safe, I'd just say 5,000 piece. Since I was last year, I think he had 4,000 for
Right.
asphalt and
And that
then
was-
500 for paint. So if we said 5,000 a piece,
Yeah.
So if we
that'd
said,
be good.
we wanted 10 and we put 50 grand in the budget, we'd be covered for 10 of them.
No, that's 500,000, isn't it? No,
No.
oh, for 10, right, 50,000, right.
Right, I'm saying
Sorry,
if
I was like,
we
oh,
did,
wait a second.
no, if we did 5 on
Right.
Battle Avenue, 4 or 5 there, and we did, we have to speak to the.
We have to hear what they
I think
want,
we- yeah, 'cause we
where,
gotta
where,
really
where
place
people
them,
would
right?
want,
Yeah.
we would have to hear where people, because some people, and that's gonna be interesting, I think, on Thursday night, is that some people are gonna want them on Perkins Street,
Mhm.
and other people are gonna say, well, absolutely not, and then some
Right.
people will want them on Main Street, and other people will say, it's gonna ruin the feel of Main Street, and so, it's, it's just that whole thing, but I'm curious to hear what everybody
Okay.
has to say, I'm excited to hear what Deputy Birch has to say, and he was actually really happy that we were looking into this.
Good, yeah.
He said, it works really well in Stonington. It's great that they have somebody, and so I'm really happy that Castine is thinking about this. And I was like, okay.
Well, I think Stonington has different reasons for why.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
But, the other thing that I found interesting is, when DOT said about putting lines in the road,
Mhm.
and you know what, I've noticed ever since then, I really don't travel Main Street a whole lot, because in all
Right.
honesty, when I come into town, I come down over State Street, I come along Fifth Street, when I go home, I typically don't go that way. But I've actually traveled ponds recently, and I noticed everybody travels down the middle of the street.
Exactly.
And so they think they have a nice wide swath, and of course, they do go faster. I think if there were lines there,
I
which granted
agree.
in the wintertime you wouldn't see them because the snow would be over them,
But yeah,
but I think that would do something. And I mean, lines, yes, you gotta pay for lines, but it's not like it's $5,000 a pop for.
I also feel that whatever resolution we come to after the meeting, whatever the number is at the next town and gown meeting, I think we bring it up, we bring it up with MMA and say we share the expense. I mean, we both get the benefit,
yeah.
and so we should both pay for it.
That's fine. I really did like the lines on the road.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that painting will cost. I can't do that.
Like, for example, when we have our striping done, which is the parking lots and, down Main Street, it's the parking spots and then the hash,
Yeah.
or the walk,
Crosswalks.
crosswalks. What do we spend, like $7,000, I think?
I think so. I
Yeah, I
used
think
to
it's
spend
about
like
7,000.
3,500 Naples for
So
just
it's
parking
not-
spots and
I mean,
stuff and
it's not-
crosswalks, so.
Cheap, But it's not, I mean,
But
in the grand scheme of things, it's not hugely expensive. And I don't think that, I mean, especially if we decided that we want to do, you know, Main Street and Battle Avenue down to, you know, the White House. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that much money. Because it's also a straight shot. It's not like they have to measure over.
Yeah. it's
And the other thing is if we have the lines and they're solid lines and people are cross,
Yeah,
they
then,
can get tickets.
then they can get in trouble because that's not right. Okay. So traffic enforcement, okay,
Traffic
enforcement
Yeah,
is
we,
next, Jack.
and I
We
think-
talked about that.
Yes.
yeah, I think we just sort of talked about it and talked about the number of tickets. I did let Roberta know. I went in because in the month of January, this January, 30 tickets were written, and then February to date, which is actually through yesterday, 23 tickets have been
Is
written.
that from the sheriff's department?
No, this is
Okay.
parking tickets. for us.
Parking.
This
That's
is the
what we're
parking,
doing.
traffic enforcement.
Traffic.
Oh, I was reading that as
Traffic
driving
enforcement.
enforcement.
Sorry, that's the
parking.
That's the parking.
But that's a lot more than November, December, right?
It's a lot more. Last year there was, what did I say? How many tickets? did I say?
67.
67 the whole year, so.
But there was more in January and February last year than other. It
Well,
was
and last.
14 and 15.
And last year, yes, 14, so this year he's done 30 and 23, and I mean, 23, we're not even halfway through February.
What is the nature of most of the
Interesting timing, right before the budget.
Right now, they are, some of them were
We're not-
overnight but
We're not too
only
far,
when
I don't
we're,
know how we could,
you know, we have to
how
push
we could sense
notification
it
out.
better.
Right now, our main problem that we seem to be having is up on Wadsworth Cove Road. People are parking, you know, because
Yeah.
there's no parking on that side, so we've been keeping a pretty close eye up there.
Right, because it's posted up there.
It's posted no
But
parking, and
they're-
they're
but
parking
they're
in front of
parking.
the
So
wall
is it,
parking.
and their students or staff parking there, because the lots are full?
I think
Yes.
it's either
Yes.
side. I think it's students parking up there because the lots are full.
Yeah.
And we lose a little bit of space with the snow.
They knocked over
And then we
some of
can't get, vehicles have a hard time getting through.
Oh, sure, that's an area on
And
the
we,
rise.
and we could not get a fire truck through there if we tried. So that number of tickets written up in that area. But then it's also been the overnight when we have a push notification. So that's just, I mean, I just wanted to
That's-
update
no,
you guys
thank
on
you.
that.
That's- It's very interesting. Okay, so service agency requests.
And I don't know if you want to go, so if you
Right.
flip over to the unclassified tab,
Yeah.
and if you go to the second page, well, third page in, account number 847. And, I mean, we have typically, I mean, in all honesty, we have typically given to the same service agencies for a number of years, and they're the service agencies that probably have the most people in Castine that they service.
Which ones are those? Because when I was totaling up the request, that puts us at 54. Oh, I apologize, you've got it in the paragraph.
Up in the
there.
paragraph, so Northern Light Home
Yeah.
Care and Hospice is 1,500.
Yeah,
Eastern Agency on Aging, 175.
yeah.
Down East Community Partners, and that's the at-home Down East, 1,400. The Tree of Life Food Pantry in Blue Hill, 175, and Life Flight, 650. So that's who we have typically given to,
And that brings us to
the 3,900.
Are there any agencies that, I mean, I'm sure everybody's in need, is there anybody in particularly in dire straits or?
I mean, all of the ones listed below have given, you know, they have sent us requests saying, you know, we you know, and I mean, they're all good. My other thing about the service agency request is, to me, this is, I mean, we're simply forcing people that these are the places that you're going to give your money.
Mhm.
And whereas, you know, I mean, on the one hand, I think, typically the select board have kind of picked out agencies that they felt service the most people in Castine
Mhm.
at specific needs, you know, I mean, food pantry, Life Flight, at home Down East, home care and hospice. I mean, they sort of pick some things that are, you know, kind of some
Right.
very personal things
People
that
can give
everybody,
quietly if they wish,
Right.
individually on their own to
Yeah.
other agencies.
and anyways,
I mean, if there was a severe accident in Castine and we had to get the helicopter here fast, you know.
Which
you
has
know,
happened.
Which has happened.
No, but to me, you know, in terms of, if we're thinking about, if we give money to a place and there's a real emergencies, you know, life flight to me is.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, I don't think they play those games. I mean, oh, they gave to us through.
Oh, no, I'm not saying games, I'm just saying, I guess I'm not saying it, what I was trying to say is that in terms of services for the residents of Castine,
Right.
if somebody had a horrible accident or heart attack,
Over the years, these have been the ones that I think previous select boards before you
Yeah.
have picked out as
Right.
being sort of the
creme de la creme.
the top ones that they felt, and they also felt that most people in town probably wouldn't have any issue giving to, and then that way, you know, if you're forcing them to give, I mean, this is, you know,
Right.
kind of that.
Exactly.
So,
No,
so for
I mean-
this year though, Northern Light wants 1,800 instead of 15, is that right?
They actually have requested 1,800 for the past couple of years, and we've continued to give them 15. And we get the letter saying, thank you so very much, so.
Yeah,
I
they're getting
don't,
something.
right, I don't think, most of these are asking, I mean, I think they typically ask for more and would like more.
Down east actually asked for less, they asked for 929 instead of 14.
I think
Is that
we
correct?
do, well, they actually request, what we do is we actually ask for this $1,400 to go to the at-home Down East
Yeah.
program.
Mhm.
Whereas Down East Community Partners, when they're sending it out, they're asking as an overall thing for all of their
Oh,
programs.
for all, I see what you're
Whereas
saying.
when we
Uh-huh.
send it,
It's directed.
we actually send it directed for
That's
the
good.
at-home
Okay,
Down
okay.
East. So
Okay.
we are kind of picking what we want to,
Right.
and that's because we have a number of residents in Castine who use that program.
Right. And it looks like the Tree of Life hasn't or doesn't usually make a specific request.
The Tree of Life does not, to tell you the truth, that came about, I kind of put that one on the table because I found out, I was over there one day and I was, you know, talking with them and they had told me, they said, you know, we have some people from Castine who come over here. And I said, you know, could you tell me how many people, you know, come over here? And I mean, it's quite a few. It's quite a few.
Absolutely.
And so I brought that to a select board and I said, you know, reality is this is our closest food pantry. And there are people who
Is
go
that,
over
is that
there.
the one in Blueville?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are
I have to say,
people-
one day I was there
Mhm.
and I was shocked. There must have been.
Oh, it is,
It must have been 100 people in line.
that food pantry is used by a lot.
Blue Hill, Stonington, Tara.
Yes,
that's my
yes,
region.
but Castine also goes over there.
Absolutely.
So I was the one who sort of said, and they, in all honesty, they don't send out letters to any municipalities. They told me that. They said, we don't send out letters to municipalities proper because, to tell you the truth, they felt that it was forced taxation, which I kind of liked that about them. So,
Yeah.
No, I
Anyways.
think it's a wonderful organization.
so I mean, if you guys want to just leave it the same, that could be an easy, you know, let's move forward with the same that we've done in the past.
Have we ever had in the past, like a list somewhere in the town office, support our local charities, and just have a list of, so people, you know.
One year we did that. One year I put together a list and I said all of these, you know, and I actually had, you know, the same thing that I do in here.
Yeah.
I made a, you know, these are the, you know, these are the companies, or these are the service agencies that requested our support, you know, the town, or the, you know, your select board felt that, you know, they couldn't, you know, although we worded it, you know,
Yeah.
nicely and said, you know, if you would like to do that. Tell you the truth, I don't think anybody took any of it. I think people have their own things in their own mind. I mean, I know.
Or they get mailings at home.
They get mailings at
individually,
home.
too.
I mean, I know at home, I have certain ones that I do every year, and I have, yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
Listen, it's good that we're doing something. I mean, it's really good that we're doing something.
Leaving it the same,
Yeah.
thank you.
And just so you know, other places have been very similar. We had a lot of requests from all kinds of agencies, but we usually pick out the ones that are doing the most, like for fuel assistance, administration, and Eastern Area on Aging, visiting nurses for, that type of thing. And I've had some, they totally cut out all of the spending using the same idea of like, oh, well, we can give ourselves, why are you telling us? And I'm always like, well, that supplements our general assistance costs and stuff like that. So,
Exactly. Yeah, okay. So reserve account.
Okay, or do we want to, since we're in unclassified, this is also where recreation is, do we
Oh,
want to
yeah,
just
yeah,
sort
that's
of
the,
discuss that
Yeah.
maybe a little bit?
I mean,
That's
you
what,
gave
that,
me
the only thing you have
the only thing I have is the new one.
right, I mean, you can, if you want to.
What,
you
what,
can go
what,
to
what, what tab are we going to?
If you go,
It's this.
go to your unclassified
Okay,
tab, and
okay.
that's where recreation is.
Okay, got
And
it.
then the budget that I gave you,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what they sent.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So,
45.
so the only thing.
Oh, yeah, 'cause it's blank.
Karen brought up that in August they have a food truck, ice cream truck at the back shore for a beach bath. But our mobile vending ordinance says that those can only do that on holidays.
Right.
So that won't work. Thank you, Karen, for reminding me of that. So
even if it's one of their little sponsored events, if it's sponsored by a
Our
town group, it
ordinance
doesn't
says
allow
the
it.
only
Okay.
time a mobile vending truck can be at the back shore beach is, and it gives the, actually, I
it's
have a
probably
copy
like,
of the
it's like
ordinance, yeah.
Memorial Day.
No, I remember seeing that in there, but I didn't know like in some of mine like that, they would have like, unless it was sponsored by a,
Actually, Sue said, if the select board wanted to, then they could do an amendment to the ordinance, but then at town meeting.
I'll end up having to go through that again.
We have nothing to talk about at town.
I know,
We're
without,
not gonna
buy again.
I recall a town meeting,
But what
I
I'm
think I'd just been
wondering-
hired and I remember that was,
Oh, yeah.
was what's proposed, so.
What I'm wondering, so if the $2,500 is for the ice cream.
Right, what is the $2,500 for?
Could they bring coolers of ice cream to
And
the
that's
back shore and pass them out? If the.
If you're not having, if you don't have a mobile food vendor, then then we're okay.
But
I am wondering, it says back beach bash. To
Yeah,
me,
so
that
it's like a
means,
party.
Well, I mean, are they planning? I know, are they
band,
planning
some
on a band?
events?
We don't
Maybe
see.
Yeah,
don't
we
know
don't know
what
what
that
the
is.
2,500 is for, so we need to find out.
it's a lot of ice cream, I can tell you
We
that.
need to find out what the 2,500 is
All right.
for.
So you want me to, what I can do is I'll send Dan Gardner an
Yeah,
email
that'd
back
be
and just
great.
say, select board have a couple questions.
Yeah.
You know, one, I'll let them know what our mobile vending ordinance will allow. And then two, what's the 2,500 for? And then,
So on the 4th of July, $1,200, is that a lot more than last year?
well, to tell you the truth, for the 4th of July, I think what they left out is typically, the band, which is like $500 or $600. No, not the town
Okay.
band, Willie Kelly
But do
or
they pay for
whoever.
that?
That comes out of there. So
Okay,
I
check
think
that
that,
out.
I think the $1,200 includes
That band.
that band, but
think
we
so?
should double check.
I was wondering if they would charge more. So, or not more, but if it would be more.
Well, like Willie Kelly, we have some of the local people and they will just do 4:30. I mean, it's 2 hours and to tell you the truth, they kind of like to come down here.
Oh,
If they're
no, I
local,
get
the
it,
local
yeah.
people, then they kind of kept their pricing the same.
Nice.
Trunk or treat sounds really fair, it's 100, I think.
Yeah.
I think their stuff is,
Well, and some of the events they're doing, they're not costing any.
right, great.
Right.
I mean, $6,000 for a whole year is not
Yeah,
a big
it's not
deal.
bad. My only concern.
Although it is a 33% increase from last year, and if every single department or
3%,
committee
is
went
it?
up
Do
33%.
we have in here?
You probably
Last
don't have
year's?
last year, because I got the request this morning.
Okay, is
So
that
I
something you
haven't-
can get, oh, no, actually,
So I do have the amount spent, and they typically were 2,500, and then they went to 4,500 last year.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And
but
do we
it-
know how much
it's-
has been?
It seems to me that the rec committee is kind of like new and improved.
Oh,
And
it
I
is.
think they're
I think
trying,
they are.
I think, I mean,
Yeah.
they're asking for more, but they're also wanting to do a lot more.
They're doing good stuff.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
doing really good stuff. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, if we could just find out what this bash
Yeah, more on that.
is.
And then also outdoor movie night, were we gonna maybe?
Oh, yeah, movie night, we were gonna, where was the movie?
Yeah,
Outdoor
June.
movie night in June. For the movie rights, they don't have to pay a fee because they can piggyback on Castine Arts Association, and Castine Arts Association already pays the fee to be able to get any movie.
Like Swank or one of
So
those
if they
places,
get
yeah.
it through Castine.
So a co-sponsored event with Castine Arts
They
Association in
co-sponsor it.
June, then I think that we
Okay.
could probably cut that back by $200.
Yeah.
Normally a movie will
Are
cost
they
you about
ordering
300 for
inflatable movie screen?
50 person
I don't
crowd.
know.
That's what I was assuming the money was for. Could you?
Unless
So
you
it
have one of
says
those
movie
licenses.
Yeah,
So,
but
okay.
CAA has
Right,
that.
that's what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
you guys have that license to like Swank or one of those, because the movie they'll charge you like 300
So
bucks. I
I'll
know.
find out I'll make sure from Casting Arts. that
Okay,
they-
Even an old one
You
that's
know,
And then
100
Amy
years
was just
old.
asking about whether it also included an inflatable
Karen,
screen.
the
I don't know,
first,
do we have a screen or does Castine
no,
Arts
I was gonna
have
say
a
the first, I
inflatable
was just gonna bring that up, so the first year or two I was here, MMA
screen? Yeah.
projected a movie on the sail of
The sail boat, yeah.
of the boat.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah.
if we could talk to MMA about doing it down there, I mean, what a fun thing that would be.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I think it would depend, well, it depends if the Bowden's in,
Right.
because the Bowden goes out
Right, I know.
in June, so.
That would be amazing.
But that would be
So,
very cool.
okay. So, yeah, we'll find out,
Yeah.
I'll find out from CAA and.
All right, so maybe we'll hold off on
Yeah.
sending
Yeah.
Jan until
Yeah.
we find out about
Yeah.
CAA, and then we can do it all in one email.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Do we know what bush hogging at the back shore is?
Yeah, you know to the left of the parking lot by the saltwater pond, that, you know
It's
how
totally-
that's sort of a,
Rosa Ragosa field.
Yeah.
oh, and you know when the Rosa Rugosa gets mowed over? Oh my God, somebody mowed the Rosa Rugosas. Don't worry though.
They will come back.
They will come back.
Party is back.
Yeah.
But be prepared.
But they get mowed down so that the kids can, I mean, play in
Everybody
the field.
vacations
So
with
that
them.
that usually gets mowed a couple times.
Oh, is that what that
The things
is?
that we
That's
talk
what that
about,
is.
we're actually,
That's to mow.
we're actually,
Or I think it's.
we're
like
actually
mow
using our
once
life
and they-
force
they
to
put the
talk
regular
about
mower in there.
Rosa Ragosa being
Take
cut
the mower
down
to it
when it's
once.
gonna
I
come
didn't know
back.
they had a role.
And
It did come back.
I know, but I'm just saying
It
that,
always comes back.
Terry
Yeah.
started.
I remember that was like the first week I was like coming in, like back in July, and I'm like, that's really a big deal. It's a weed. It will be back in like a few weeks, but
Deal.
I was surprised.
It's okay. I mean,
And you
not, we're
mentioned the
not getting
screen.
ripped off,
Did
so
they
it's
buy
okay.
like an inflatable screen? Because renting an inflatable screen is a
We don't-
waste of money.
we don't
You might
have-
as well buy one for $200
We
and always
don't,
have
we
it.
don't have a screen, so we'll ask them
Okay.
if part of this 500 is for their screen.
That's what I've
After
written down.
After I
screen
find
question
out
mark.
from the Arts Association.
you know, they made these screens that the town could buy. It's basically, it's a piping frame, and you pull the screen tight, and you could do the movies right here on the green,
Yeah.
and we could have a screen that we own,
Yeah.
and we could do movie nights many times.
So the inflatable ones though, they're just like a bouncy house, and they're
Really?
probably about 250
Okay.
bucks. And you tent them down with
Okay.
stakes, and that's what we had in Allenstown.
Yeah, we use them on the
Okay.
Yeah, and we actually used it inside the fire station because we moved it inside the fire station.
Well, we'll
So
find
people
out.
like
It's a good problem.
Yeah.
Good screen design is good.
We got 10 minutes, so okay. Reserve account by quickly. Where?
So in reserve accounts, I mean, this was just something that, I mean, there's a whole lot of need, and you guys, are gonna sort of, and it may, some of it may depend, I mean, we've gotta do something to pencil in each one of these. I mean, fire department usually comes up with their request for, the truck and the fire rescue building and the self-insurance. I mean, they usually come up with something that they say
Do you know
is
when
their
you get
ask.
that budget from them?
Jack told me the end of February.
Jack?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think you all know what I'm going to say. I just feel like it's like if we don't start putting money
Oh,
aside,
agreed.
if, like real money aside for somebody, I mean, I think last night's discussion was perfect. Like, we're putting $10,000 a year away when machines cost $800,000.
Yeah, we're never
Right.
gonna get ahead.
You're
Well,
never
but
gonna get-
what I'm saying is, the fire department, I am guessing, is gonna come with their operating budget, and then I'm guessing they're gonna come with something in the reserve accounts. I'd say on those ones, let's wait and see what they come up with. If they come back and they're still saying 10,000 and 10,000, then you guys might wanna say, you know what, realistically, this probably won't work in the long run, so let's go. But they may come back where they may say, okay, we would like to put, $50,000 in the truck reserve, and we would like to put, $100,000 in the building. I mean, it may be something that you guys may,
I mean, if you
Yeah.
added
but I
up.
think let's wait and see what they come up with
But
when we ask first.
let me tell you how I look at this. So let's just say the value of the equipment, the future value of the equipment, I'm just making up the number, is $10 million, okay? And we know that equipment has a 20-year life or a 25-year life, okay? You should just do the math and say, okay, if we put X amount of dollars aside, as this stuff gets aged, we have money, we're not, like, we actually have money to go out and buy things.
So we can wait on the fire department.
Well, I got a couple questions on that too. I know the fire department, they need 385, okay? That's gonna be the reserve, whether we do that I don't know if we do these as the same warrant articles or separate warrant articles, like,
We
for each one?
We've always done it as one, but we may want to do it as separate articles, because, that way, I think the voters have more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
they'll probably take some of them as a block anyways, they often do
They
one,
may.
but.
Well, money
right.
articles you can't.
Oh, you can't? Oh, I thought you
can't take
could.
money articles
Oh,
in the
okay,
block,
all
so,
right, good.
yeah.
All
Can
right,
you,
so.
can you remind me last night, the 385, how that breaks down?
So, well, there is no true breakdown. It's
Right.
all related to
Much
like
detail.
the survey. We got to do a geological study of the ground. We got to hire the OPM. So a good portion of that is for him. We have to hire the architect with those
Does
fees.
this include the architect search?
Yes,
Okay.
everything's supposed to be included, and Randy can correct me. That's why I asked him. I said, we heard this right. The design, like plans to go out to bid after we get the pre-engineering little, drawing plan, then it will be the fine tuning and actually the bidding documents and plans for bidding out that
And Derek,
project.
you said something to me that I thought was really, really spot on. You said that if we get this, I'm just gonna call it 400 for a round
Right.
number. If we put in this 400 and it gets approved, essentially, once this project's moving forward, it's gonna be 400 a year for
Roughly.
for bond payments for the firehouse. So kind of like we're preparing the community
Right.
for this 25 years of an extra $400,000 to build the firehouse, and we're starting it now.
Yeah, that's,
And I'm not doing it all, like 385 shy of truly what that might
Yeah.
end up being, but it gives, I know that's what the OPM that we've met with a few times, when he's broken down this, and he had like 15 different fire projects in the last 5 or 6 years, and he said, this is what you need to do. It could end up being a little less, doesn't matter, because it's gonna be in that reserve account for us to tap into anyways, but it also, I wanna make sure that's from taxation, so that it's already built in.
No, I think
So
it's-
when
I
the
think-
bond time comes, it's $30,000 more, or whatever it
Exactly.
might be.
It's just-
But we
it's
might
so-
as well get that now, because there's no sense in spending that money than to have that sit on a shelf forever.
So I have another question.
Yeah.
So, according to Randy last night, within 3-4 years, we're looking at a fire chief, we're looking at some increased salaries.
Yeah.
I just think that if that's the reality, if that's where we're headed, 3 years from now, there's a paid fire chief, or I'm going to call it $1.25 for argument's sake. I don't know how we do this, but it just seems to me that we should be preparing the community this new reality.
And the reserve accounts to also. control
Exactly,
payroll.
Yeah.
exactly.
But that's a problem with payroll's a tricky one with capital reserves. That's not really a reserve.
I wouldn't think you could do that.
You could do like an emergency overtime reserve or something like that, but
you
actual
can't do-
operations
yeah,
is
you
not a
can't do
good
it.
idea.
Because you're really supposed to, you know,
Right.
operating things, you are supposed to budget for in that year it's gonna be spent.
Mhm.
So
So you
you,
can't really put things aside in preparation, knowing that you're gonna have kind of a bottleneck.
But Karen, you know, if
You could in other places that are like
Yeah.
one-time expenses, and then they would eventually offset it.
Right.
But if we're looking at millions of dollars of infrastructure in the next 10, 12 years, okay, let's just call it $10 million for argument's sake, but beyond the firehouse.
right,
We'll get $10 million, okay, if we look at it over 10 years, it's $1 million a year. Okay, if we bond it over 20 years, it's $500,000 a year plus interest. Okay, you know, I just think that you know, I don't want to do that this year. You know, let's just focus on the firehouse.
Right.
But I think next year we've got to really, you know, and I would like to speak to somebody who's got expertise and you know, big picture thinking about infrastructure. Like, how is the best way to look at this? Do you do it on a case by case? Are we going to do Main Street? We could borrow $2 million, we pay it off. Or are we better off looking at the whole package and say, this is what we're looking at over the 10, 15 years. We're going to put aside $500,000 a year, and when this project comes, we're only going to do $1 million bond. And when this project comes, we're going to use some of the cash. And like, I just don't know the best way to manage this big project.
well, as I said, you know, all good plans can change over time.
Right.
Back when we first did, you know, our first infrastructure, which was Perkins Street, the plan was, let's do one every 5 years. Perkins Street got done, it got paid off in 5 years. We then did Main Street. Main Street, of course, ended up going over budget because
Right.
we all know that there
So
was
much
issues with Main Street.
litigation.
Litigation, we ended up having to have it engineered twice, we ended up changing things. And pricing went up because it got put off for 2 years. And so we ended up having to finance it out over 8 years.
Right.
So our 5-year plan didn't work. And so, you know,
Yeah.
here we are, all good plans get changed.
Yeah.
And I think I told you, the town did look at doing everything all at
Well, I
once.
know.
But the town decided that is not for us. And I mean, they did, I mean, there was people who said financially it probably makes sense, but we don't think that we can have our town torn up for 2 full years to have the whole town torn up for 2 years. So it was
No, I get it.
I mean, it was a, you know, a lot of it was a personal decision on how to handle things.
And again.
If you asked the town next year and gave them the same 2 options, it might be a different answer.
They might change their mind.
But
It might be a
but
different
if we
group of people.
and listen, I'm reluctant to do it this year. But if we said to the town, we're going to be putting $700,000 a year aside for infrastructure, okay? You know, we're going to pay we're either going to pay for it a little bit now every year, or we're going to get these big hits down the road.
So we could have an infrastructure reserve fund?
Oh, we have one. We have it in capital accounts, because in capital accounts, typically,
had one, and I
Yes.
was like, where is it?
Yeah,
Roadway
it's in
infrastructure.
roadway
Okay.
infrastructure, and we have it there because
And we can do
typically
that.
things are done every year in that account. I mean, there's things that go in and out. With reserve accounts, there's gonna be some years that nothing happens in
Yeah.
reserve accounts,
Yeah.
and then other years where, you know,
So-
something is.
So right now there's $412,000.
Correct.
Yeah, so we could, and we could increase that if we wanted to.
Well, last year we put 121.8 in it.
Right.
So currently, I mean, as of 1/16, it's $412,000 in it.
So just so I'm clear, the library has $130,000 a year for library capital projects and another 150, or is this all the library gets?
Last year, they requested to take $130,000 for capital projects. Currently, they have as of 1/16, they had a balance of 115,000. You gotta remember that most of this $130,000 was for the landscape project.
That hasn't happened.
That hasn't happened.
Right.
So this year, in their request, they are asking for an additional $150,000 for capital projects,
But they're,
and they've split them up, you know, showing what it is, and I believe $30,000 is going into, I think they call it the garden project. So are they adding, I don't
yeah,
know.
we need to talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I ask one question on the fire department, Derek?
Yeah.
When we were talking last night, so we've got this 385 that we're talking about
Mhm.
for May town meeting. And then we were talking about, am I correct, a special town meeting in January 26th? If things go to the timeline,
If
that would
everything
be,
goes the right
that
way,
would be to
yeah.
approve the
A
big
bond,
cost, the
let's say,
bond.
right, yeah.
So can we do, I guess I'm confused, can we do special town meetings for bonds?
Yes,
Yeah.
because you're borrowing
Taxation?
money. Money's not coming out.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's
you have to
the
only money
first
for
payment.
Considered taxation.
Right.
Yeah, and the
So
first
it's
payment's
borrowed.
not due
So-
till the next
Okay.
year, or
Alright.
whatever,
Right.
so.
All right, that, thank you, that's all.
Yeah,
I
so
needed
when,
to
right, so special
understand.
town meetings, money either comes from surplus or
Right.
it's borrowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so
then-
it looks like our time is up. Karen did hit on here though that we need to consider building permit fees for next time. The use of town property, like she and I were talking about, we can be charging for weddings.
Totally.
Yes,
And things at the back shore beach. And I still want to see Harbor's budget because I really want those things to go up. But yeah, but we can increase our building permit fees too.
do
They're
we have
really
the
low.
authority to do
Yes.
that? Or is it- no,
That's what-
no,
yes, you
that's
do.
us.
That's us.
Okay.
Karen, do we have money in a, like a town dock or something account? Where is it?
We have a capital account, and under the harbor. where
Is it, it's
Harbor-
in
harbor-
capital, not in reserve, or what?
It's-
That's right. so you
Yeah,
use
harbor
it-
improvements, I mean, there's not much. There was,
Okay.
on January 16th, there was 14,000. I think we ended up taking like $2,000 out of there towards the harbor master.
So, do you know when Sean applied for the money, because I'm starting to lock in on this congressionally directed spending with dockies, and other people have various ideas of what that money's supposed to be for. I'm getting ready to try to write a project narrative for it, which is I'm struggling with only because there seems to be competing ideas. I actually have a request. I'm going to send her to Xander to meet with him too. But ideally, that was $358,000 we got. But in the application itself, it talks about that we have $72,000 already ready to go for that project. And I'm like, I don't think we do.
This is
And
for
I
the
need
pump
a
station?
match. No, for the other one, the dock improvement, which reading that
We don't.
and everything to do with that
We don't.
talks about, because I've heard people talk about, oh, well, that's to do the planning
How
and everything
long
else.
ago,
And the, huh?
how long ago did he say that we had 72,000?
He put this in, let's see, this came in let's see, when did this get submitted in? It was, a date on this one, maybe. Hold on, let me look in the file. I can tell by the letters. So these letters are dated, I think, last year. March 20th, 2023.
Well, let me look and see what the balance in that count was at that point in time.
And just so you know, in this whole thing, because I just got this one, because I'm like, I can't find this stuff anywhere, and Sean finally figured out why, because we scrambled. So
'Cause that was
everything
that
but
was
this.
2 years ago.
I know.
So the balance in that harbor account may have been 70,000 2 years ago, but we've.
So I've heard people talk, well, this is about expansion, this is about this and that, and I just had my first cohort thing, and people were talking about bigger projects and whether it was ready to go. All the letters of support say, due to the larger pier design of Maine Maritime, as they prepare to receive their new training vessel, the harbor committee town feels the town will need to make changes to a dock area to mitigate visitor boater navigation concerns. Change we're contemplating is to expand the town's floating dock apparatus further in the Baganoose River to soften the approach angles. Change would alleviate most of the boating concerns. This dock expansion will also be a boon to the town. So I'm guessing we can add some docks and stuff, but the most part, this 300 and some thousand plus the 72 that we're talking about. Oh, in the budget, just so you know, I can tell you the budget. I finally get that locked down. So it's 20. Hold on, I closed the other one, I had it open twice. So the budget is 20,000 for design, 20,000 for admin, not begun yet, 300,000 for construction, 20,000 for contingency. So it's only 300 and something thousand. And the reason I bringing it up is because I hear people, oh, well, yeah, we're talking about using that. I'm like, no, this is supposed to be just to push everything out and get it around that ship. Now, does that mean we could throw some extra segments and stuff out there? Probably as part of it. But it's not a bunch of money, but it's not what I've heard about slips and everything else. So, but I want to be careful because when I'm writing this, I will also want to integrate, I wouldn't mind having part of that design to be looking at another grant for like SHIP or BIG or whatever those two big programs are. Like Bucksport has now, they put new dolphins in. I don't know if you've seen them down there for their town dock. Well, if ours is pushed way out, we could probably look at that, although I think we are really deep out there compared to Bucksport's like probably 15, 20 feet deep max.
Oh, this is.
So, and when we're talking about dolphins way out there, but one of the things of this study that we're doing is she's actually talking about possibly creating some type of a concrete break type thing also that could hold stuff.
You're
That would
talking to these engineers.
that we have right now as a possibility of breaking the waves up so they aren't coming full fury, but they hit this concrete structure and it breaks up the energy. So when it hits like the shore, it's not going to be just beating, it's going to be boom, like whatever. So I'm trying to write this grant in a crafty way to say, oh, we get it, but we don't know exactly yet what's out there. So a lot of it needs to be based on where the ship is and what are we trying to go for. So
I mean, I wonder if there's a way that you could write it in a way that we are anticipating these issues when MMA finishes their dock.
And I do have a meeting with my privately assigned person instead of the cohort. So one of the cohort I didn't think was even going to happen today. And that's what I want to discuss is because I think this money's still earmarked till 2032. So I need to lock that down and know that because I don't want to do anything until we get this study back in April.
Right.
But I also need to move the ball forward on this paperwork too.
Do you have copies of the design plans for the MMA dock?
For the what?
For the new MMA dock?
I don't believe.
Sean does.
They're probably in
Sean,
right.
but they should be in the map.
Right. I know they have plans that show it being out there.
Right.
And then I think they're going to have to take that and figure out, what this means.
Okay.
Because whatever we're talking about, but the thing is, if that's out there, how many more feet? 125 feet further than it is now?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like how much further out that is from our approach and how far out. I'm thinking that's going to be a long finger dock that gets out there to a thing, like 100 feet further.
It could
more
also
out.
give us some greater protection.
Right.
By just being out there, I mean, the ship itself gave that whole area immense protection in January.
Right.
It was the barrier.
Right.
On that
So these
side.
other barriers.
Right.
So
So
that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to have to write this narrative, and I only have some letters of support in what I read you, and then some other little details, and I'm like, I'm not ready to write this yet because I get all kinds of ideas from everywhere, but the goal is to get the navigation beyond that.
Right.
do we need to go out that far?
I don't know. But that's the whole thing. They said because of the way the water is going to change, because that boat, you'll have, of course, the old docks aren't going away either, that part, because they're keeping that there for, right, so.
It's going to kind of double the base.
Right, so, I'm going, okay, you got to get around it and then back in, so I don't know. Anyways, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
So when are we next meeting for our next work session?
Next
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
Well, next Tuesday is select board meeting
We're going to do it
because
Wednesday?